What's up, people? Welcome to an Epic 7 video. Now, I wanted to cover some very specific stuff. I wanted to put this video out because I don't see a lot of information that I totally agree with. I see a lot of information floating around, and I wanted to put out a series of videos to help everybody progress through the game at a faster pace than I did and other YouTubers that play this game have. So the first thing I wanted to actually go over, and this is going to be as quick as possible because I have a lot to cover. This is the beginner video. This is going to cover how you get through the story. When you start the story, you're going to go through 10 stages of this right here. You're going to go all the way through here, and once you get to stage 110, you're going to unlock 30 free summons that you can only keep one set of. And this is your first big decision, is what do you keep, what do you let go. You can have your favorite unit, you can go through the journal and pick out what you want and try and beat yourself up trying to get the exact unit you want. Sometimes you might get lucky, you might get that Tenebria you desperately want. But the odds for summoning any given monster, they're a bit skewed with that summon because you can't pull every monster or every unit, I should say, and you can only get one nat 5 from it. But at the end of the day, your odds are this.
We have a visitor
to get any given unit, right? 0.2368%. It's very, very low. If you want Ludwig, that's your chance to get Ludwig. It's like I said, it might be a little bit higher considering not all the units are available in that summon set. But just keep that in mind. If you're trying to pull a specific unit, you may never see that unit. You may see it in your second reset, whatever. I recommend taking your first nat 5 you get, especially if it comes with a nat 4, and running with it. None of these are terrible. Me personally, I pulled a Ravy and an Angelica on my set. I kept it. They carried me through the whole game. You may pull some completely different stuff. There are some great units. I don't think there are any bad units in this game. So, take your first nat 5 and run with it. Now then, the second thing that's going to happen is you're going to start getting these things called Hearts of Orbis. And I can show you, actually, when I first played through, I completely missed the very first one, which is right... actually no, I guess you can only get that in world mode. So, let's go back over here then. Oh no, this was the one I missed, I'm sorry. This was the first one that I'd missed. Now, it's obviously not here anymore. The Hearts of Orbis are used to upgrade your base through the Sanctuary. The game will give you a tutorial. I think it forces you to do the Forest of Souls, and over time, each of these individual areas will open up via the story. Using your Hearts of Orbis, especially at the beginning, and even as far in the game as I am, I still don't have everything unlocked because you only get one per chapter. I recommend, as soon as you get the opportunity, the first thing you want to put a Heart of Orbis into, do 1 point in the floating station. The reason for this is once you do that, it's going to unlock several of these hunt missions. And these hunt missions are what you're going to use to get your ancient coins, which you need to buy accessories, rings and necklaces. You'll need to buy those in Moss to get the ones that you want to complete sets. If you go to your shop, you also get ancient coins through the maze. But this is going to probably be, for a while, your main way you acquire them. So you get them through this, you go over here, you click buy, boom, boom, and you get a T2 T5 accessory. They're almost always going to suck, but it's how you're going to complete sets to get bonuses to continue to progress. After that, you want to work on your Forest of Souls. You want to unlock all of your slots, so 3 points into the Soul Isle extension. You'll only need to do 2 because I think the game forces you to do 1 point. And then you want to go over here and you want to increase the probability of getting penguins. This is going to help you get more 2 stars, which is going to help you level up faster and kind of get ahead of that curve for when you get, because when you get to Chapter 7, Chapter 8, Chapter 9, the game takes a huge turn in terms of difficulty. and it stops going from a cakewalk into maybe you need to start thinking about stuff, and maybe you need to start leveling your units. Once you finish with the Forest of Souls, you want to step over here to the Steel Workshop. One other thing to note about this Forest of Souls is actually, if you play more than twice a day, go ahead and get this third building as well, the Time Blessing. You'll be able to create penguins or whatever you're needing at the time a little bit faster, plus it automatically decreases the cost of stigma for each individual building, because if it's less time, it costs less stigma to complete something. I would not recommend ever waiting on routes to complete. I would just force those through. What I like to do with the Force of Souls while we're on the subject is build up about 2,000 to 3,000 stigma, and then just mass buy penguins until I have about 500 stigma left, and then use that to kind of shortcut my way through leveling my food to make 5 or 6 stars, which I will cover probably in a later video. Once you get to Steel Workshop, you want to get the reduction in gold and you also cost, and you also want to do your Blacksmith Dormitory, which I'm only now realizing I haven't maxed yet. Awesome job. And then lastly, you want to do Artisan's Furnace. The reason for this is every piece of gear that you forge without having this and this maxed, you're wasting resources. You're paying 75,000, 45,000, I think, for T4 gear. Like this is the best example right here. Is you're paying 10,000 per tier 2 piece of gear when you only need to be paying 7,000. So you really want to get Steel Workshop maxed out as much as you can, because you're going to start out. You're going to have a shit ton of gold. I think it gives you like 1.7 million or something like that to start with, and you never need gold. And then suddenly you're going to find yourself out of gold. I am constantly struggling with my gold counts. Because you just start using it to upgrading equipment, you get something to tier, level 9, and all of a sudden it's costing 100,000 to level a piece of gear. It's even at level 3 and 4, it's insane, or tier 3 and 4. So you want to get the cost reduction, and then from there it doesn't really matter where you go. I did recently dip over and get war missions so that I could start farming conquest points. Because something else you're going to want to keep an eye on as a beginner player. What do you think? Is your weekly purchases. Molagoras you can get once a week with Transmit Stones. Transmit Stones you get as both achievement rewards as well as doing transmission on a 3-star or higher unit, which you probably will never do unless you're a whale. If you're a whale, then yeah, you'll be getting this easily. If not, you're going to want to save every single one of these crystals you get for your weekly Molagora. And maybe your Giga Phantasma. Although this isn't really that big of a deal, it still helps if you have them to spare. You also want to make sure you're using your friendship points every day to grab your energy for free, basically, and then do some extra flags if you feel like it's necessary for you. That's another reason I recommend getting that one unlocked, is so that you don't have to do your PvP all the time if you don't want to, because there's stuff over here. There's 30 conquest points get you 40 energy. There's really nice T5 gear, which eventually you're going to want to save up for, obviously, and then there's charms that's going to help you level your gear faster. But the biggest thing you're going to want to save for is, once you finally do get your Nat 5, you're going to want to unlock their memory slate, which is a whole nother conversation. But basically, just as a brief overview, a character's memory gives your party passive buffs. So as you can see right here, if I had units unlock, my party, if she was in one of these 2 lit up positions, would get 4.3% more health. Somebody I have some memory unlocked on is Clury. So Clury, oops. Actually, I have triple S on somebody, I thought, but now I don't. I think it's Nemesis, right? No. Oh, it's Helga. See, I have triple S on Helga, so if she's anywhere on my team in any of these 4 spots, my whole team gets plus 8 speed. That's pretty huge. So, again, if you can unlock memory, you want to. That's how you do Nat 5 memory. You also unlock memory for characters by feeding them copies of themselves. So you want to try to be efficient as possible, but once there's no sense in me leveling other Cluries up to 5-star just to up the memory. I'm just gonna do it, I got this, I enhance, boom, my Clury's now at A rank, and anytime she's on my team, my whole team's getting 30 flat defense. Not great, but it does get better. Especially again with Nat 5s and Nat 4s, they get some pretty hefty bonuses. So never use your bonuses as straight fodder. Use them to your extra units, I should say, as straight fodder. Use them to increase their memory rings. Didn't want to get into that right now, but I was already there. The last thing I want to cover is specific heroes you want to look out for 3-star wise. And the reason I want to specifically do 3-star for now is because anybody can pull and use a Nat 5. Nat 5 stats out the gate, once they're max level, they're going to be stronger than anything you got, because making 3s and 4 stars is going to take you forever. I'll get into reputation in a second. I actually wanted to go into
treasure your new connections.
Here. So there are some specific units I want to go over, so you know kind of what you can look for, what you can use, etc. Starting with your first unit, Raz. Now, Raz is a very, very solid unit depending on your team comp. I would recommend running him if you have specific other units that get bonuses from dual attacks, which I know there's a 3-star and a 4-star, and there's probably a couple of others, but I want to just go over the 3-star for now. The reason for that is because, number one, he's a tank. He deals damage based on his own max health, so you can just stack health on him. Again, we're talking beginning of the game, you haven't finished 10-10 yet, you're trying to push to 10-10. I'm going to go over wyverns and everything at a later video, but for now, this is where we're at. His second ability, though, his second skill, is attacks the enemy repeatedly and triggers a dual attack from the strongest ally. I've got a unit that you pair with him later, because remember, he's a fire knight. I got a unit you're going to pair Raz with if you want to use Raz. Most people skip Raz, he's a Frio, he's 3 stars, whatever. Don't pass him by yet. Consider him. He also boosts his own defense on his third skill, does an AoE attack. He's the only 3-star that has an animation, and he deals damage proportional to his max health. So again, you can just stack health and crit rate on Raz, and just go ham. He boosts his own defense. He's not a terrible unit. He's a lot of fun to use if you are into, especially if you get into the lore and the plot of the game, which is very robust. The second unit I want to go over is Aither. Aither is a free unit, a fairly solid healer. He recovers the health of all allies and makes a barrier for 2 turns, which is great, especially given that it's based on his attack power, which means you can stack Aither's attack power, have him hitting respectably. He's not going to be like your main damage dealer, but he can be a respectable enough damage dealer to get that extra damage in, just to make stuff go faster. So he's got the AoE health. It's based on his attack power, as opposed to other healers, which we'll go over, that are going to heal based on their health. That's also going to make him squishier, though. Yeah, Aither is a he, I know, but he is the Prince of the Kingdom. He has another heal here. It's a second skill heal on a 2-turn cooldown. You can't complain about that. Then lastly, he has a attack speed break on 1. It's a lower chance, but again, it's functional. If you make him fast enough and make him hit hard enough, this can be a very solid Soul Weaver for your team. You get him for free. You also get him fairly often in summons, so you're going to be able to work on his memory imprint. Now, as far as stats go, I mean, he's a low-star Soul Weaver. He's not going to be anything spectacular. He is slow. He has a very low max health, even at 6-star Awaken, and he has a low attack power, so he is very much a beginning of the game unit. You can make him work later in the game, but you really do have to have some very good runes to make him keep up with your inevitable 4-star and 5-star units that you're going to get. Next one on the list that we have is Alexa and Kiris, actually. So Alexa's right here, and the reason I like Alexa for beginners is because on her second skill, which is on a 3-turn cooldown, she has looks like 65% chance to apply 2 poison effects for 2 turns. As with anything else poison effects are going to melt away boss health. So if you're coming across bosses, they're going to get progressively more bulky. Damage over time effects, burn effects, bleed effects can bypass some of the boss's health and defense as you go along, and give you that extra little bit of damage you need to shave off their health and take them down. Like I said, especially once you start getting to Chapter 7, 8, 9, and 10, bosses get progressively more and more difficult. They get meatier and meatier, and that damage over time can really help. Her being a water thief also means she's going to have reasonable speed. Her attack power is only okay, so-so. It gets pretty good if you fully awaken her, but I doubt you, unless you just really like her, you're ever going to fully awaken an Alexa. But that being said, she's still a fairly solid starter unit to get through the main story. Same thing for Curis. I don't even know where she is in this damn book. When I come across her, I'll show her, but basically she is the same thing. She has damage over time effects, and she melts bosses with that. As long as you can sustain through the boss's turns, Curis and Alexa will kill them for you. You get Elson for free. He's not a bad Soul Weaver. He did just receive a major nerf. I don't super recommend him, but there's also, you know, he's good enough. If something happens and somehow you don't pull any of these other Soul Weavers I'm going to mention, don't hesitate to use Elson. He's not, you'll get Aither for free, but let's say your team just happens to be water heavy. Okay, cool. Well, you can use Elson. It'll be fine. The next one is Montmorency, which is here. Montmorency, excuse me. The reason I like her is she's a budget Angelica. She has the heal. It's single target heal and immunity for 2 turns, and increases the caster's readiness by 50%. So she's going to be kind of quick when she does her heal on her 3rd skill. And if you do a soul burn, it'll cost you 2 bars of soul burn. But if you do that, it applies to the whole party. So now suddenly her 3rd skill is Angelica's skill, and actually she's faster than Angelica. So Montmorency, definitely a solid choice if you don't pull Angelica and you need a water soul weaver and you're just not feeling the prince. Her 2nd skill dispels 1 debuff from all allies and heals debuffed allies. So on those bosses that are like mass defense breaking or mass speed breaking or whatever they're doing to you, you can shake those off and get heals for it. So she's also actually not a bad PvP unit to use. Again, she's not top tier or anything by any means, but depending on what your box looks like, she is a very solid choice. She also has a sleep on her 1st skill. It's only 25% chance, but 25% chance could mean the difference between life and death depending on where you're at. I don't recommend she be your main healer for the rest of the game, but she's definitely got potential. 94 speed, she's a little slow. That's okay, you can fix that with gear. Next up we have Inot, which I never see anybody talking about. Inot has a bleed on his 1st skill. He has a defense break on his 2nd skill, as well as he prevents buffs, which means that enemies can't crit buff or attack buff themselves to kind of screw you over later. And this can actually be this can be used in a lot of situations, and it also is actually good on Wyvern because he's a water unit. He's an ice unit, and he applies 2, 3. Okay, it's 3. This is actually just self buffs. I forgot about that. My bad. But yeah, his 3rd skill also increases attack and crit chance. It means you don't have to invest as much into him in his crit rate, because most units you want as high a crit rate as possible. Well, if you get him to 50%, let's just say you get him to 40%. Yeah, 40 is a reasonable number. 40% crit rate with your current gear. He uses his little self buff. Well, now he has 70% crit rate. He also has a self attack boost, meaning this 798 attack he's sitting on is not going to be his actual attack power. It's going to be much higher than that, just because he boosts his own attack power on a full turn cooldown. So, I would strongly recommend Inot if you pull him and you're searching for a water physical attacker. After that is Hazel. Hazel is unique for a couple of reasons. Number 1, she has a heal that is also a 2-turn attack buff, which she's the only 3-star that has that combination. You also need to get her to friendship level 3 in order to summon the free Nat 5 they give you, Yuna. So again, I do highly recommend pushing for Hazel if you are not too heavy already on fire units. Now, if you're already using Raz and then you really like the free Mercedes they gave you, well, that's 2 fire units. I mean, using Hazel really isn't going to be your number 1 priority. You'll be using probably one of the water ones. But if you didn't opt in for Mercedes, you didn't opt in for Raz, you need a solid healer. I actually do recommend her. She boosts attack for 2 turns with her 3rd heal. Her 2nd ability is another heal, which can be even a bigger heal if the ally is too low on health. And then her 1st skill can do a heal block, which isn't anything spectacular for most of the game, but it actually can come in handy in some scenarios. After that, we have Judith, who, on her 3rd skill, this is the main reason you'll want to use Judith. Her 3rd skill, on a 4-turn cooldown, boosts combat readiness of all allies by 20%. That's pretty big. That means your whole team, for the turn that you use that, is going to be 20% faster. You know, you're sitting there, you're using your Raz, the boss at 20% health. You pop her, Raz at 80%, Raz hits 100%. Use Raz's 2nd skill, he combo attacks, that finishes off the boss. Whereas maybe the boss was about to drop some sort of devastating nuke on you. Again, with her being an assassin, she's also hella fast and has a reasonable attack power. It's nothing major, but with how fast she's and how often she's going to be hitting, and the fact that she does have a fairly good chance to stun on her 1st skill when she's stealth, which there's cards for that. There's success relics for that, which again I'll go over later. You definitely could consider Judith if you're not too heavy on fire. After Judith, there's Rima. Actually, before Rima, I missed Clury. Clury has 2 things going for her. Number 1, she has a provoke and a defense break on 3. The cooldown's long. It is 5 turns even after you skilled it up, but defense breaks that are that high of a chance are actually kind of hard to come by in these brackets, in this 3-star bracket. She's also fairly fast, given that whenever she uses her 1st skill, she automatically gets 15% combat readiness. And she self-heals. She's definitely a unit you can stick on the front row. Now, the thing that makes Clury interesting is that she evolves into Falconer Clury. It takes a lot of work to get her there, but it is doable. I've done both specialty changes so far. It's not that bad. But what it does is it also gives her 3rd skill a strip, which, again, a strip combined with a defense break and a taunt on her 3rd skill on a 5-turn cooldown, and the fact that she's already going to be pretty damn fast is great. Plus, there's this whole thing you're going to get into later with your specialty changes classes. But basically, as you invest in Clury, she also gets a 7% chance to get extra turns. If you have questions about that, feel free to ask. I'll go over it as best I can. But just know that Clury is awesome. And while we're on the subject of specialty changed units, you also get Lorena for free. She is a pure DPS unit. That's all she does is damage, but she does it damn well. So if you're just wanting somebody to nuke the hell out of some stuff, Lorena's your guy. Your girl, I should say. She has some of the highest base attack in the game. It's like her, where's it at? Boom, boom, oh my god, failed. So anyway, she has one of the higher base attacks in the game despite being a 3-star. And again, once she specialty changes and you can go into her special talent tree, it gets better and better and better. But just keep in mind that all she's good for is straight damage. So take that with what you will. She's somebody that might do a lot of good for you in the story missions, but once you start hitting some of the harder content, unless your other 3 units that you run with her are very, very well rounded, she's not going to do you a lot of good. Anyways, moving on. Rima is a very overlooked unit. Let's just say you pulled that amazing, you pulled that Sigret, you pulled that Haste, you know, you've got that Nat 5 lined up. You're playing through the main game, they're trucking through everything. Rima's gonna make that faster, because Rima decreases their skill cooldown by 3 turns. So what that's gonna do is that big, badass 4th skill they have that you want to drop on enemies to clear them out, you're gonna be able to use that way more often. It also... she also has a sleep on her 2nd skill, which is, again, it's pretty decent. It's good crowd control. There's some crystals. You can put them to sleep. I know the green crystals that you'll run across give random buffs to enemies, and they can kind of make things get out of control, but you can crowd control them. So put it to sleep. Pop! Done. Stacking crit on Rima will cause her skill cooldowns to go down by 1. So basically, every time you use this, well, now it's her next turn. Well, this ability has a fine turn cooldown, so now you have 4. But wait, your first skill crits. Well, now it's 3. Okay, well, your next turn, boom, first skill crits. Now it's 1 because you will get the skill cooldown for the turn plus the crit. So now next turn, you're going to be able to use War Him again, which means your Cigarette or whatever you're pulling is going to get to use their big skill again. That being said, Rima is only good if you have those heavy hitting carry units. She's not going to be good with someone like Ravi, because Ravi doesn't have cooldowns. You're going to want to use her with people that hit very, very, very hard and have 4 or 5 turn cooldowns. So if you have something like that in your box, consider Rima. She's an overlooked unit. She's a hell of a lot of fun to use and super cool. Let's see. After that, I've already gone over Curious. Alright, Terranor Guard. So let's say you did decide to go with Raz, like I said earlier. This is who you want to run with Raz. Whenever you dual attack with this guy, he increases your whole party's combat readiness by 25%. So that is speed. And when a character dual attacks, they use their first skill. Terranor Guard has a defense break on his first skill. So while it's only 50%, he has a natural boost in his dual attack to begin with. Plus, if you're running him with Raz, you're going to get that dual attack as well. The only trick is you have to make sure Terranor Guard is your highest combat rating unit, besides Raz, obviously. So, you can get Raz as high as you want, then you want Terranor Guard, then you just want to make sure you keep your other units a little bit below Terranor Guard, so him and Raz are attacking together, so you're getting that defense break, so you're getting that combat readiness increase. He also gets the attack boost, and that's going to last until his next turn, so I cannot recommend Terranor Guard enough if you are using Raz. Next on the list, let's see, we were gonna go to Helga. Again, another somewhat overlooked unit. She's not talked about much. She's very straightforward. She has a 2-turn attack boost on 3, and she has a defense break on 1. It's low odds, but it's there. And then she can extend her own buffs by a certain amount. But if you're needing an Earth unit, you're needing an Earth Warrior especially, I use Helga all the way through 1010. Between Helga, Angelica, and Ravi, I walked through the story. I had to spend an extra day preparing for 1010. It's a fairly difficult fight, but Helga, I can't recommend her enough. She did me good. Plus, her memory isn't listed on here, but her memory awakening is at SSS rank is 8 speed. So she's just going to make your team that much faster, and it's very, very easy to get a character like Helga to triple S. So again, I use Helga my entire playthrough. For the main story, I cannot recommend her enough. I use her a lot of times over my Sez, and I had Sez, and anybody who's been playing this game, those people are talking about Sez. Okay, my mouse seems to have control right now. That's fine. Went over Helga. Jecht is kind of like Rima. I would use Jecht if you have a solid healer on your team. and you also have like some really solid 4 or 5-star units running with you. You've gotten that luck. You know, you pulled. Let's say he's actually. So let's say you did pull Ravi. Well, obviously the Rima we discussed isn't going to do any good, but Jecht is going to provide her boosted speed, which means Ravi's going to get more turns for her first skill. He also has a cleanse, which is, you know, always going to be nice. But it provides a heal over time and a speed boost to all allies for 2 turns, which means your Ravi's going to be faster, she's going to get more turns. She's going to be rocking that first skill just non-stop, which is what you want. Again, though, Jecht is only good under the circumstance that you have a Nat 5 that isn't boosted by Rima. Another great example is Yuna. Yuna's 3rd skill is on, it's not on a cooldown, it's on a stack. But she gives herself, I don't remember what they're called, but she basically gives herself these little markers every time she uses an ability. At 5 markers, her 3rd skill unlocks. Rima's not going to help you with that, but Jecht might. Now, of course, you're not going to be able to farm Yuna until you beat the main game and get fairly established in the post-game content, but you can still pull her in scrolls, so something to keep in mind. Jecht would go very well with Yuna. And that's really... Oh yeah, there are 3 more actually we gotta go over, because there's the Claw Sisters. These girls can fill any hole in your team. Misty Chain does damage and heals all allies with her 1st and 3rd skill. And it has this revive buff as well. So she's just... I almost wish I hadn't pulled Angelica, so I would have gotten to use Misty Chain. Her modifiers are not awful. She's a little slow, but when she's awakened, she gets to 104 speed. That's not awful. But again, just she gets healing off by attacking, which is a very rare trait for any hero. I can't think of any off the top of my head that do that. I'm getting a visit from my kitty. Hi, kitty. Anyways, if you don't pull a good healer, but you want to give Misty Chain a try, I really recommend going for it. She can be a secondary healer. You just build her attack, build her as a mage, and just go ham. Carmen Rose hits like a truck. Again, she has an attack boost on her 3rd skill. Enough said. Like, she's a baller. I know her modifiers are also very high. I've seen people hitting for 7, 8, 9k with Carmen Rose with medium gear. So, again, phenomenal unit. Pearl Horizon has a blind on her 1st, a sleep on her 2nd, and a stun plus sleep, or a stun slash sleep on her 3rd. So she's not as good as the other sisters. She's functional, especially again in the main story where things can be stunned and slept and all that good stuff. But I just wouldn't recommend investing in her. So that's mostly the units. Now, I'm not going to go over builds right now because realistically builds aren't going to matter. You're not going to have a ton of gear. You're not going to be able to really build, you know, a speed crit damage attack unit on perfect gear because you're just not going to be there in the main story. You're going to be throwing whatever the hell you have on there and trying to get whatever your main stat for that particular unit is as high as possible. Always focus on speed, health, attack. Whatever that unit needs to be doing, that's what you want them doing. So yeah, that's what I've got for you for this video. This is just a beginner's guide to getting through the main adventure mode. It's not going deep into bosses. Again, I don't want to spoil the story because the story is very good, but the boss of 1010, you gotta be ready for it. If you have specific questions about it, I'll be happy to make a video on that later. But for this video, I just want to keep it to these are the 3-star units you want to look for if you don't pull 4 and 5-star units to compensate. I wanted you to know where to put your Heart of Orbis, and I wanted you to know what you need to be looking for in the shop and what you need to buy in order to progress as quickly as possible while still getting the maximum amount of joy out of this game. There are no bad units, there's just units that are less good than other units. So, thank you for watching. If you have any questions, leave a comment. You know, I don't really expect to get a whole lot going on this YouTube thing, but I do have a Twitch which I stream on regularly. I usually stream this game, if not as the main game, then I still have it running on the side where it can still be seen. I'm always willing to answer questions, and I love talking about this shit. So I'll leave a link to my Twitch in the description below, and I will see everyone in the next video, which will be rather soon, and I will go into post-game content, talking about Wyvern, hero combinations, and different things that you're going to need to boost yourself into the post game, because once you clear 10-10, that's only the beginning. But thanks for hanging out, and laters.